Boy, today I've got a real treat. I've got a good friend of mine. He's been a friend of mine for a long time. He's a lifelong Clevelander. He's Robert Thompson, attorney Robert Thompson. And he's one of the most interesting people I've ever met. And I'm looking so forward to visiting with him today. Can you believe this weather?
I love it.
Man, what is it, 60?
66.
I started to ride my bike today, but I just had too much going on.
Yeah. We got that rain last night.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of the parade, or before the parade and then after. Can you believe it broke for the 2 hours of the parade? Did you notice that?
I can believe that. I didn't go to it. Did it go right by your house?
Right by my house and right by my office.
Where did you watch it from?
We watched it. We had some folks up to our office, which is on the second floor of that Andrew Johnson Bank building, and we had a bird's eye view, and it was gorgeous. We're not in our house. You may remember we had that house fire.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but we watched it from our office. It was great.
What's the first parade that you can recall in Cleveland?
You know, I just remember coming back in 1987, and when I went to work with Conrad Fennell.
But I mean, prior to that as a child.
No, I don't remember him back then. So the first one was watching it from Conrad's office after I'm back and I'm practicing law.
On the courthouse square at 30 2nd Street is the law firm of Logan Thompson Law. Since 1965, they have served the legal needs for the good citizens of Cleveland-Bradley County. If you've got a problem, they're no problem. Give them a call.
Well, Conrad, he was a dude, wasn't he?
Conrad Fennell is the reason we're in Cleveland, Dee. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I didn't know that.
Do you remember him?
Oh, I knew him, yeah. He was my cousin's attorney, and he was smooth, wasn't he?
He was really smart. He was a great attorney in a lot of different levels. But the reason he's the reason we're back in Cleveland is that Dad and Conrad were fraternity brothers up in Knoxville. And my mom is from Charleston, Tennessee. And I don't know if you ever knew my granddad, Frank Bryan. But anyway, my mother would come back during the holidays with my dad, and they would always stop in to see Conrad Fennell, who was practicing in Cleveland. And so Dad was working for a senator in Virginia, and every time they came in, Conrad would say, "Hey, Jim, you ought to come to Cleveland. I've got more cases than I know what to do with." And this is the early 60s. So finally, in 1964, 65, Dad says, "Okay." And Dad and Mom moved to Cleveland. I'm 4 or 5 years old, and he's the reason that we're in Cleveland, Tennessee.
He was supposed to be a real good trial lawyer.
He was.
And I watched him on one of my cousin's trials. The jury liked him.
He could tell a story, and he was a likable, he was a storyteller, and he could captivate you. He had a big, deep baritone voice. He would, back then you tried a lot of cases, and I'm talking about in the 60s, 70s, and when I got out of law school and came back in 87, you didn't try as many, but we still tried a whole lot more back then than you do now. And Conrad would go to court with just a blank yellow pad. And it wasn't like it is today where you have volumes and volumes of notebooks and all of the discovery and depositions. I mean, you just showed up in court and tried it. Conrad was one of the best.
Really. Do you think if he had to do the paperwork today that he would have been as good, or do you think it's different now?
No, it's 100% different. And he would not be as effective. No, he would not be as effective. Back then, and it was a little different too. I mean, the law practice was a profession, and today it's more of a business, And by profession, I mean, Conrad had several things he would tell me, and there were truisms. He called them truisms. Mm-hmm. You had some on your walls.
Yeah.
Who was it that wrote those?
James D. Elmore.
Yeah, and those aren't those profound?
Oh, they're profound, and they stand the test of time.
They do. And Conrad's, a couple of his, and he had many, but one was, in terms of the business part of it, Robert, you take care of the clients and the money will take care of itself. Take care of the clients and the money takes care of itself. He was never focused on the money aspect of it. And several of my partners today are not focused on the money part of it, which is good, right?
Yeah.
You just count, you take good care of your clients, you get good results, and financially you'll be blessed. So that was one of his. The other was what goes around comes around. And he was a gentleman. He treated all of the other attorneys with respect. And if one of them would make a mistake, particularly early on in the case, he would give them a break, so to speak, because he would say, Robert, you're not infallible, and one day you'll make a mistake, and you'll hope that this attorney treats you like you're getting ready to treat him today on his error. So he was really a mentor to me in a lot of different ways.
Nobody knows the ins and outs of the legal stuff if you're not in it. I'm smart enough to know that I don't have a clue. There's stuff that I wouldn't believe. Am I right?
Well, probably, but 90%, it's like an iceberg. 90% of the work is done before you ever get to trial. And the lawyers today that are the most prepared are really the ones that are the most successful. So you don't see all of the hard work before you go to trial. Now, the reality is less than 4 or 5% cases go to trial anymore. Most of the time, particularly jury trials. When I came along in '87, they just started this new protocol or this new tool they used it called mediation. And you've been through mediation, I assume, right?
Yep.
You a fan of it?
Well, not really. I do think it probably gets people thinking they don't have a case that don't have a case. It probably gets them thinking, well, I don't want to do this in trial.
That's true. It shows, it uncovers weaknesses of a case. But more importantly, most of the time, there are two sides of every coin, and it's not black or white for either plaintiff or defendant. And if you have a good mediator, he can bring your client in and show them the weaknesses better than you can as the attorney. I can tell my client doesn't want to hear me tell him what the problems are with his case. It's easier coming from a third party sometimes. And good mediators accomplish that goal. So we do, almost, and now the courts require almost every case to be mediated before you have to go to trial. It's another way to be efficient with our legal process.
I worked for Doug Elrod back in about '86. I was a appraiser for Doug.
Now remind me, who was he?
Doug Elrod was Stanley Thompson.
Okay.
At the time. He was the tax assessor. And I was there with Bobby, who just died, 2 weeks ago? Walker?
Okay.
What was her name?
I don't remember.
Creasman. Bobby Creasman. Jeff Miller's ex-mother-in-law.
Okay.
So anyway, I was there with
That's
her.
Bridget's mother.
Bridget's mother, that's right.
Right.
And so we were standing there at the file cabinet, and you came in and we turned around, and Doug's wife, can't remember her name, said, "Oh, Robert, did you get your law license?" You said, "Yeah, I did." Isn't that funny that I remember
Isn't that something?
all those years. It was about '86. Is that when you got your?
That's right, '87.
'87.
Yeah, and you may remember before I came, it used to be Conrad Fennell, my dad, so it was Logan Thompson, and then Scott, a guy named Bobby Scott, Robert Scott.
Don't remember him.
He died in a car wreck in the early '80s, and then Jim Logan, and Randy Rogers, and Judge Puckett. That was the attorneys, all in the upstairs of that little area of, where Conrad's office was, above the townhouse, I guess it's bake shop. Yeah. And back in the '60s and '70s, I was just, in the '70s, I was a teenager, and I would work when I was 14, 15, down in the archives, if you will, closing files. And that's, it was something else.
I can't believe how exciting it would be to be a starting attorney and to be sitting in the midst of those guys. It would just be it'd be golden.
It really was.
Better than the parade.
The parade was pretty good this year.
What did it take, 2 hours?
It was about an hour and 45 minutes.
Well, they started at Bradley High and then came around. Did they have the girls that twirl the batons and stuff?
You know, I didn't see the band. I don't know if the band did it. I may have missed part of it, but the float after float after float, and somebody put a lot of time, or a lot of people put a lot of time into that.
I had lunch with a guy today. He was asking, wonder why they call them floats. I don't know why they call them floats.
Well, they look like they're floating on air.
I
You
guess,
don't see
yeah.
the wheels.
That's right. They have the curtain. I hadn't thought about that. So, what do you remember about the first parade? You said you remember it in '86 when you came back.
Yeah, and you may remember back in the '80s, the downtown was completely, it was a lot more vibrant. When,
Oh yeah.
You remember that? Remember Diamond Lil's?
Oh yeah.
You know, we would go to court, and the attorneys would be just battling it out. I mean, not scream, but you know, I mean, they were giving it their most forceful argument, and then they would walk across the street and have lunch with
Yeah.
the judge.
Yeah.
You know? And that
I
was the
know
way
it.
it was.
It worked, didn't
It
it?
did. And look, Diamond Lil's for breakfast, you go in there and they'd have the okra on the grill, and you come out of there and you smell like okra the rest of the day.
Well, it was good food, wasn't it?
It sure was. I miss that place.
You know, I remember remember John Brown?
I do.
I had a
Big bushy
big
eyebrows.
bush. Yeah, he used to say his eyebrows were lethal weapons. But I remember one day I went in there. I had some problem. I forget. And I said, John, I need your help. He said, Dee, I ate lunch from 12 to 1. And I said, but John, I got a problem. He said, Dee, I ate lunch between 12 and 1. I said, John, you don't understand. I got a real problem. He said, Dee, I'm telling you for the last time, I ate lunch between 12 and 1. So I just sat down and ordered lunch.
That's pretty smart. Yeah, Diamond Lil's was a special place. The Spot was a special
yeah.
place. And we had Earl's around the corner.
Earl's, they had good hamburgers. Boy, they had good hamburgers. You know,
Why do you think those places aren't here anymore?
well, think about this. You go back to these old pictures that they have of Cleveland, downtown Cleveland and stuff. That was when everybody came to town on Saturdays. I mean, even back in the early 80s or mid to late 80s, that had nothing compared to what it was back then.
Right.
I mean, it was crowded. You've seen those pictures with all the cars sitting in front of them. So whatever happened was already happening.
Yeah, you're going back even further. You're in the 50s and 60s when we had Miller's department store and J.C. Penney, and we had a lot of different businesses.
Draper and Darwin, wasn't there? Draper and Darwin.
And there was a men's store. I remember the name Costa or something like that. Anyway, it'd be nice to be able to revitalize the downtown like they did back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, if you will.
Wonder why it has slowed down. I'm not really sure.
We have the malls, right?
Yeah.
So in the first, as I understand the way it went, is the first covered mall in Tennessee was the Village Mall that Jim Corn built. The way the story goes, I've heard, I don't know if that's correct or not. So that pulled a lot of the Millers and J.C. Penney's and, away from the courthouse square. And then everybody complains about parking, but that's been that way forever. And boy, I wish we could find a solution to the parking issue, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And I wish they could find something to the homeless. That is bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a need to take care of those people. And I think the Salvation Army, for example, on Emmett Street does a good job.
Yeah. You ever go in there and get coffee?
I haven't.
I have. It's pretty good.
Yeah. But I just would rather have a location that's a little easier, for everybody to service their needs.
You would think that you could sit down and strategically figure out how to accomplish that.
Yeah.
You would think.
Well, they're trying. They got a good board, and they're making progress, I think. And do you like what's going on with our city council and our manager and the revitalization of the downtown?
Well, I think they are really trying. They're doing all they can do. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing all that because you got so many different owners. You'd have to have everybody agree to the same thing, and that's hard because this one's renting, that one's here, that one's not there. So it would be hard to do that. I guess they need something downtown, with Amazon, and even Walmart doesn't have the traffic, and the malls don't have the traffic. Nobody has the traffic, I guess, because of so many Amazon delivery stuff. And I'm guilty of that. I mean, I order just about everything online.
Yeah, I do too. I think we need more people living downtown. That would make it a change.
That
like
would.
What Nick did with Agora, Nick Lilios.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's real good.
first class. What they've tried to do with the building I used to have there at the mills, the Santa Jose
That
mill.
looks good too.
The guy did a great job with that. And he came in and spent like $10 million on it. I couldn't make the numbers work at $3 million, but he was able to make them work at $10 million of an investment in that building because of the different layers of tax credits that he specialized in. So anyway, we need a little bit more of the downtown living, and they're building some apartments on First Street. And
I saw that.
all that's going to help.
I'm not sure if that really fits in, really, but
It's better than the dilapidated structures
it is
that
better
were
than
there.
that.
Yeah.
You know, Inman Street used to go across the railroad. It didn't used to be underneath.
No.
Somebody told me, I'm pretty sure, that it used to go straight across. And if you're over there off of, on the other side of the railroad tracks, you can look, and it is a straight shot.
Well, and I think that's the direction they're going, is going to
To go-
reroute it.
to go around.
And when they went under, they should have gone under another 10 feet, so we
Yeah.
wouldn't have so many people hitting that overpass through
They
the
hit
years.
it, what, once a month or
It
something?
seems like it. Yeah, it's a problem.
I don't know, maybe when they moved the courthouse, but it was old too. So I don't really know what the answer is, but I do think that if you have more traffic, then you'll have more traffic.
Right.
And so maybe that's what they're trying to do. Is that new grant they got, is that going through with
It is, as I understand it. And I've talked with some of the folks that are involved in that, and they have gotten the grant, it's just allocating the best appropriation of the funds. So I think we'll see a different landscape, and I know people have been saying that for a long time, but I believe in 24 months, we'll see a completely different landscape coming down Inman Street.
Have you been down to Blythe Avenue lately? Boy, they've really done a lot of work.
Haven't they?
The building looks nice, the roads are nice and wide, and that was original. You notice the roads down there are really wide. They're like 28 feet wide.
And were they originally that wide?
Originally that way, because that was part of the downtown.
What do you see with the building industry these days? Is it slowing down with the interest rate going up?
I've got my own theories, of course I always do, but I think that '08 ushered in the acceptance of smaller stuff and not so fancy. It ushered in the acceptance of that. When you go back to Lenox Hills and Mountain Brook and these 4,000 square foot houses, I think '08 ushered in the acceptance of more inexpensive things, houses being one of them. And I think that when COVID hit, we had maybe a rubber band effect, like, because you're going to get so much progress, just as a natural incline. And when that stopped, I think what we're seeing now is that rubber band effect of all those people that in 3 years or 2.5 years, that it's just a rubber band effect of it's all catching up. And I believe as it catches up, which will probably be middle of next year, and interest rates being higher, I think we'll see a slowdown, not because of the economy, just because everybody that wanted one's got one.
What's surprising to me is the cost per square foot, and folks are paying, $300,000 plus for a 1,600 square foot house, things of that nature. You used to build a house back in the day for what per square foot?
Well, I remember when I first built one that cost $62 a foot, and I thought I had really messed up or mismanaged it or something. $62 a foot.
And today?
Well, today, it's probably 240. I'm building one now that's more than I can even say on camera.
On camera.
But I'd say the average is probably 240, something like that. Wow. And a year and a half ago, it was 150. So but I've noticed in this business, as interest is down, costs are up. If costs are up, labor's down. It's just a matter of when you get on the train.
Right.
Just get on it. If you're going to be in the real estate business, just get on it when you can get on it. And it's a matter of get off of it whenever you just hope that when you get off, things are up or interest is down or whatever. But also, over the period of maybe 60 years, the average interest rates, Jim Elmore, when you saw his, one thing he told me, he said, when you buy real estate, always do your calculations on paying 8% interest over 20 years.
So he stressed it up that high.
He stretched it up that high, and I said, why, Jim? He said, because in 20 years, you're going to average 8%.
Yeah, that's smart.
And that is generally, and so right now, it's really not high. It's just slightly above average.
Right.
So if you factor it, so the years that you have lower rates, it's really not your money. Just save it for when it goes over 8, because it's going to happen.
Yeah, and we're in a bubble. I think we're lucky to be here in Cleveland for many different reasons.
I've got a little loan that came due, and I just didn't pay it off, and the new interest rates, the payments are like a fourth more than they were.
Yeah, I'd hate to be trying to start with a starter home and be, 24, 25 years old and trying to make those payments and then making a car payment. My dad always would say this. He says, you never make a payment. Don't ever borrow money on a depreciable asset. That was his philosophy. It's okay to borrow money on something that's going to go up in value, but people who borrow money for cars and things of that nature, unless you just have to, unless it's a necessity. He was never a big fan of that.
I was driving down Broad Street, and I took a right there on Smith Drive, and there's an old house. I guess you could fix it up. I don't know. It was really bad shape. And I thought, hey, that'll probably be $40,000 or $25,000 or something. So I called, and it's $90,000. You could not fix. I don't know if you could fix it up, and it'll probably sell. Somebody will probably buy it.
Right. Well, like I say, we're in a good spot. You've been happy living here in Cleveland, Dee? Would you ever consider, if you weren't going to live here, where would you live?
Arizona.
Okay, explain.
I like hot weather, dry weather. I'm slightly claustrophobic. So if you go to Arizona, everything's spread out. Even the airport's spread out. The tables in the restaurant are just a little bit further than here. And there's not as many people just around you all the time.
I never knew that about you.
Oh yeah, Arizona's a great place.
Well, I didn't know you were claustrophobic.
Very slightly.
Yeah.
Not real bad, but I would classify myself as claustrophobic.
Let me ask you this. I remember years ago you would tell me when you would get discombobulated or have some type of dilemma that you couldn't unwind, you'd get in your car, you'd just get on the interstate and you just drive north until you figured it out, and then you hop off the interstate and come back. Is that still your
I still do that.
Method?
I still do that. One of my routes was get on I-75, get off at maybe the Charleston exit, go up to the 58 shortstop, maybe go around the Lamontville Road, come back. The roads where you don't have to do a lot of thinking, it's more just driving.
Yeah.
Because you can generally figure something out if you can get away from it and kind of say, now what was the real point of this anyway? You ever get into something and you lose sight of the reason why you started doing it?
Many times.
Like, for instance, law. What would you say was the real reason initially that you started law?
Well, of course, I grew up. My dad's a lawyer. My great-grandfather was an attorney in Buchanan County, Grundy, Virginia, a little coal mining town pinned in the mountains. But the real reason was just watching folks come up to my father. We'd be at a baseball game, or we would be on the river fishing, or just wherever, and somebody would come up and say, "I don't want to take up too much of your time, Mr. Thompson, but just got a quick question. And then he would stop and pause and answer their question, you know, and I could just see there was a level of respect for him. And of course, and then that was really one of the reasons. The other reasons is I just thought it was a fascinating, every day it's something different in a small town. Take this type of case, I get to learn about a product defect. And take this kind of case, I get to learn about, you know, what values of property on a condemnation case, or take this kind of case. You know, so it's very challenging, and keeps your mind working.
You don't stick with just one area of law, do you?
No, you know, when I started again with Conrad, there was not a public defender, so I would take criminal defense cases. You get appointed cases back then, and so we would go to trial a lot. It was a great trial experience back then. And then I sort of gravitated more toward the civil side of it. And there was Ashley Owenby and I with Conrad Fennell. You know Ashley. You related to him?
I think I am distantly.
So he took the criminal side of the practice, and I took the civil side. And then you know, and then there was a period of time I would do domestic relations, and it got to be a little bit tedious. I think that the domestic relation practice takes up so much of the court's time, and really, Dee, if you have two reasonable people, they should be able to sit down with a good lawyer, good lawyers, and a good mediator, and resolve 90% of these domestic relation cases, you know, in an afternoon. And they would save tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees, plus the emotional wear and tear that goes with a divorce case. And so I you know, that's one area of the law. If I could wave a magic wand, I just really would encourage folks to try to work out these differences, because, you know, our judges are so good. They're prepared. They're, you know, we know they're predictable. We know, so given a set of facts, if I know all of your assets and all of your debts, your income, her income, for example, a good lawyer can tell you within a real narrow range what the judge is going to do. So why go waste 2 years battling this thing out? You should just be able to work it out, if you're not just looking for a pound of flesh, and a lot of times folks are.
And they're not going to get it anyway, because they're just, in my experience, he's going to get 51, she's going to get 50. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 49, 51, 40, I mean, it's relatively, the law says it has to be an equitable division. And it's not necessarily 50-50, but it's not much off that most of the time. I mean, there are cases where somebody's business he thinks the value is really, really low, and she thinks it's really, really high, or vice versa. I mean, there are times for that, but just to be arguing is...
It's almost like they want somebody to side with them on who's wrong, and they'd rather have somebody to say, you're right and they're wrong, even if the money wasn't involved or something.
You're 100% on spot. That's correct. There's a case a couple of years ago, a friend of yours, I say you know of him, but I mean, his attorney charged him over $300,000 on a divorce case. That's ridiculous.
Most people don't have $300,000.
No, it was, anyway, that was an outlier. It's typically not anything quite like that, but why spend $50,000 on an attorney fee for you and your wife do the same? And that's $100,000 that you could have given to your children or used.
And that may be the difference. In the end, the difference in the amount is what you paid the attorney. So why even have it?
They're the only ones who make out on those cases.
You ever see anybody? I was over at the Staples here a while back. They had these forms that you could, pre-made forms, and I forgot what I was looking for, but I happened to see one, a divorce form. Does anybody ever do that? Is that possible? You go in and fill it out, and they're okay with it?
I'd be careful with that, but I've seen folks do that, and they're probably binding in certain circumstances, but I would still discourage you from doing that.
In other words, somebody could still, would you have to go to a judge still?
You still have to have it approved, court approved, absolutely.
But you're saying if you had just a form you bought, then somebody might contest it later?
They could, and some of our judges may scrutinize it a little bit. I don't know, I haven't read these forms, Dee, so I can't tell you how thorough they are or not, but I wouldn't do that necessarily.
Hopefully I won't have to, right?
No, you won't. If you do, I'm taking her side.
Do you think that in the future marriage will, I always wonder about this, in 50 years or 40 years, I don't even know if they'll have marriage as we know it.
That's too deep of a question for me. I think we'll always have marriage.
You know, I've noticed something about you. You never really got into political views. I've known you all this time, and you've not even, I wouldn't know if you was Republican, Democrat, or Independent, and I think that's good for you.
Do you?
To stay out of that realm, because I do too.
Yeah.
Because what's the point? I mean, you're not going to change anybody's mind, but do you do that on purpose, or do you not really?
No, that's a hard question. Yeah, I'm obviously, I have my feelings and thoughts on it. I don't know that I can make a major impact on anything, but it's frustrating because you don't really understand what is accurate, what are the true facts. And you turn on one channel and you hear this and you think, oh goodness, this is, I need to be supporting this person. And you turn on the next channel, you hear a completely different side of it. It didn't used to be that way when we had 3, 9, and 12 in a, you know, in a good, unbiased paper. I don't know.
But you purposely just stay out of the.
It's just not that interesting to me. I've got too many other things going on right now. You may remember I didn't get married until I was 36. How old were you when you got married?
I think I was 26.
And how old are your children now?
Oh, 22 and 20.
Okay, so you
God.
waited a while to have
Oh,
children.
yeah, I waited a while.
Yeah, so I did too, and that's my point.
Yeah.
I've got 4 daughters, and the oldest was 21, Gabrielle, and then 2 twins, Emma and Elsa, and they're 20, and then my youngest is Adelaide, and she's 17. And so my time is focused with them. I've got my wife, you know Ramona, full-blooded German, beautiful lady, you know, and she has got more energy than all of us in this room times 5. I mean, she goes until she gets more done in one day than most people do in 7. So you say, well, why you're not focused on politics? It's just not the time of my life. Maybe in another season of my life, but right now I'm trying to, you know, finish getting these kids educated and get them, and you know, I got 4 weddings to work for. So most folks at age 62, where I am, not most folks, but a lot of my friends have already retired. And I don't see that happening for a long time.
With my kids, or my boys, I don't know what they might need or something. So far, they're okay, but, you know, I wonder how much of, should we keep working in case they need money? I mean, you know.
Yeah, how much you want to leave them?
Yeah, I don't know when I'm gonna croak.
Do any of your children work with you in your business?
My youngest is sort of a John Paul. Do you ever know John Paul Douglas?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's a lot like John Paul Douglas. He thinks like him, and so he could do the real estate end. Mm-hmm. The construction end's sort of a dying occupation. Like remember the old used to there'd be radiator shops. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what the construction general contractor is now. They just really, you know, it's either these big companies that come in and build 50 of them and they get the windows, you know, cheaper. And of course, I don't think they're building them cheaper. I think they have a lot of back office expenses. All I have is a cell phone, and I charge that to my rentals, so I have no overhead. So if they want to get into a bidding war, they're not doing it with me because I don't even need the money.
Yeah. Well, do you think you can build a house for the same price point that, you know, D.R. Horton could build one?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that's
Absolutely.
good to know.
There's no.
And you will build a better home.
Oh yeah.
No doubt about that.
No doubt.
And of all the different construction projects that you've been through the years, whether it be residential or commercial, you know, what do you prefer on those 2 schemes?
Medical buildings, and there's a reason why custom homes are okay, and that's typically what I did. But it's very emotional. People are saving up, and they're going to pay for it for 30 years, so it's very important to them, and so that's an issue. But if you build a medical building, you're generally, very rarely do I build a medical building that I'm not working directly with the administrator in their office and not necessarily the doctors. Because the doctors they don't care. They just they don't care.
Right.
They literally don't care. But the one that's working in the office, she's got a flow that she wants everything to work, and generally I hire the architect and the engineer and the whole thing. So I'm a one-stop shop, and it works better because that person in the office is more used to issues
Right.
and overcome this issue and work out this problem. Whereas a homeowner may not be. They're doing their thing all day and they don't understand why the roofer's not there. But an office administrator understands because she's got employees that have things too, and the roofer must have too. And,
Sure.
and it really goes better when you're not focusing on specific areas of the job.
And I'd say your margins are a bit higher on those complexes.
Yeah, well, see, I just charge a certain percentage irregardless.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what it is.
So you don't give a turnkey price, you do a cost plus.
I do cost plus,
Okay.
no matter what.
Well, I think construction business, if you weren't doing what you were doing now, what would you have done?
I'd have been a lawyer.
Well, congratulations,
lawyer.
you made the right call.
You did too.
Yeah, I'm happy. I don't know that any of my girls will follow in my steps. You know, they see that it's long hours, and I don't know.
I don't think your daughters are going to have any problems. I've seen them.
Never say never. Yeah.
You know, you remember, I don't know if you remember Johnny Holland.
No.
Lived over on Centenary Avenue. Well, he used to go to the Old Fort, it used to be the Cherokee restaurant. I'd go there I'd skip school and go eat with those old guys. And I was coming out of the restaurant one day, and one morning Johnny said, Dee, he always smoked those real thick cigarettes. He said, Dee, what are you going to do now that you're getting ready to get out of high school? And I said, I don't know, Johnny. I hadn't decided. I want to build houses. And he said, well, let me tell you something. He said, you're not going to be happy doing anything you do, so go for the money.
I don't agree with that.
Well, think about it, though.
Yeah, but you like what you do. And
I enjoy it.
Yeah,
I enjoy it.
And you're a hard worker, but it's hard. And your mom and dad are special people. You know, I know them both, and they
Yep.
raised you and Bo. And as hard as you work, Bo outworks you, I think, 2-to-1.
I don't know. Nobody outworks me except me yesterday.
Anyway, we both were taught the importance of hard work, no doubt about that.
No doubt. Let me ask you this. You don't look 62.
Now, I'll be 63 next month.
Is there a secret?
No, genetics.
Your
Mother.
skin's good toned.
Well, thank you. My mom and my dad's 87. He turned 87 a couple of days ago.
He
And-
doesn't look
Well,
87.
he doesn't act 77. He really has got more energy some days than I do. He plays golf every time the weather permits. He has a place in Florida. He drives himself down there. He has good friends. And one thing that he and mother taught me, you know, we talk about truisms. We were talking about that earlier, but my mother would always say, Robert, the quality of your life to a large extent is determined by the quality of your friendships. And that is so true. I have found that to be so true. So I invest tons of time, and I want to, in my friendships, in my relationships. And that's something my dad does. He's taught me, just not taught me, I've just watched his example on how you live a balanced life. I mean, he works hard, did work hard before he retired, but his mother traveled, he had good friends, and so that's really what I saw as being the secret of a happiness, is to have a balanced life and not just be all about this or all about that. So,
Relationships are the currency of life.
aren't they?
I mean, you can use it literally to get places.
I don't know that I use my friendships to get places, and all my friends have done so. You know, college roommates, again, retired early, most of them, some of them, several of them have become the Fortune 50 president of corporations. I mean, they've just knocked it out of the park. And really, really proud of all of them. But I haven't leveraged that in any way to improve my life,
Well, but I mean,
my financial life, I should say.
well, have you ever heard that joke where the guy says, I'll probably butcher this, but he said, hey, the president's coming to town. You want to go see him? And he said, I don't even know who the president is. And he said, well, come with me. I'll show you. And so he goes, and the president gets up, and let's see. Now, I'm messing this thing up. Anyway, so I guess the punchline is, the guy said, no, I don't know him, but who's that guy up there next to Bubba? In other words, Bubba knew everybody.
Yeah. You didn't know the president.
Yeah.
I mean, you can recognize the president. Now, but relationships, I'll go back to that. You remember Matthew Brown?
Yeah.
Good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And I miss him. We lost him in 2018, of a heart attack. He was just about to turn 50. And miss him every day. But I learned a lot of things from Matthew. One thing he did was every month he would figure out who is a person that I would like to get to know that I've never known before. Maybe it's an older gentleman or a founding father, if you will, of Cleveland, and he would make a point to take him to lunch. And he was very intentional about expanding his own knowledge by taking these other people out. And I've been trying to emulate him a bit on that. I haven't been too successful, but there are some fascinating people, and you've had a lot of them on the show. I would encourage you to keep doing that.
I'm gonna keep at it. But being relationships are the currency of life. I mean, not necessarily a financial, but as far as relationships are the way to purchase a good life. In other words, it's not a money thing, but it's just that relationships are what you need to have a good life.
I agree with that. That's how you recharge. It's how I recharge my batteries, other than being with my family. I mean, nothing takes place of your family and your church family too. But outside of that, you laugh hard. You have these memories, and my friends go back 40 years now. So, we grew up together, and there's just really nothing like an old friend.
There's nothing like an old friend. That you're exactly right.
Yeah, and you've got a good group. I know you.
Oh, I've got the best group. Good friends. Have you ever noticed that somebody you'll be a good friend with them? For example, Stanley Thompson. Me and him's like best friends. I don't see him but once every 3 years. But I could see him today, and we're still best friends.
Didn't miss a beat.
Didn't miss a beat.
That's right.
And he's keeping up with me, and I'm keeping up with him, but I hadn't seen him. And I saw he's pulled over to the side of the road and was waving. I thought it was somebody trying to start something, and I got to looking closer.
He's done a good job for us, hasn't he?
Oh, he's perfect.
Yeah.
I call him stainless because he's perfect. Drives you nuts.
I don't know. Sometimes when I see my tax bill, I'm not so sure he's as perfect.
Well, he won't do any adjusting for me because we're too close of friends.
No,
That's how straight he is.
Well, you just have. I mean, he's adjusted a little bit for me, but I had to have all the facts in order and really independent documentation. So he treats everybody the same.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you know him real well, you're a little disadvantaged, I think.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Speaking of this, you've watched some of these where I've had some people on it?
I have. Yeah,
It's really good, isn't it?
Well, and it takes me back. My pediatrician was Dr. Hughes, for example.
Yep.
And I watched one you had with Dr.
Yep.
Hughes and his son, Richard. And I love that one. C.A. Kyle, I saw that one. I've seen several of them, and I saw one with John Sheehan recently, who's a good friend of mine, and we're so proud of what he's done. Good example of a person who can live anywhere in the world, and he sticks right here with Cleveland, Tennessee. I saw Forrest Preston the other night, not on your show. I don't know if you've had him on your show yet or not, but he's 90-something, and he has been he just transformed so many people's lives, big part of our community. He's still very, very sharp. He and his wife are at Cafe Rome. I would encourage you to get him on this show if you could.
I have thought about it, and I think I've picked up the phone and dialed him a couple of times. He actually dialed me by accident a few times. I think he butt dialed me or something, but he never did hear, so I hung up. I must be close to somebody that he calls a lot, because I'll get a missed call from him.
If you think of all the people that he has made multimillionaires, you know, who worked for him at some point in their life, there's nobody like that in our town. Maybe Toby McKenzie, you know, there are a lot of people who bounced, did really well with him.
Well, wouldn't you love to have Toby McKenzie on here?
Oh my goodness.
Well, it would be great, wouldn't it?
It'll be an 8-hour show.
It'd be 8 hours. He was really funny, wasn't he?
He was. I'll give you another couple of names that you may have not thought of, but again, back in the 80s, the attorneys were different. I mean, they were gentlemen. They were articulate. They could write well. They just seemed to be more worldly, if you will, if that's Denny Mobbs. You ever had him on the show?
Nope.
He would be fantastic. And you talk about a guy who can talk politics, or he can talk about anything you want.
Denny Mobbs. I'm gonna call him.
Whole breadth of knowledge that you know you just can't, you will not regret having Denny Mobbs. Mike Calloway.
Mike Calloway. I have had a bunch of people talk about him.
I'd love to
And
have
he
Mike
was
Calloway.
he was in law office with John Brown. We
Yes.
could talk about John.
Yeah, and Harlan Painter, we missed that opportunity. We missed that opportunity with John Brown. John Kimball. John Kimball would
be
He's
great.
one of the most knowledgeable
like
people. He can talk about anything with depth. I mean, he is a really, really bright person. You know, and Roger Jenney. Have you had him on the show?
Hadn't had him on there.
He can tell you war stories. And he has shared with me, and I agree with him. He goes, you know, he practiced law in the best time of the best decade there ever was, or several decades, and he got out at the right time. But he was a force to be reckoned with. Roger Jenney was, just like Conrad, you know, and just like my dad. I think it was. I got to see some of the best.
You know, I've just hit before you came in here. I was doing the totals. We've hit over 1,500,000 views now. And that's
impressive.
Over 26,000 last week.
Really?
Yeah.
26,000
views.
So, and was that John last week?
No, it was all across the board of different ones.
Okay. Does this air every once a week?
Every Sunday, a new episode comes out, which is usually the week before, and we try to stay 2 ahead in case, you know, because there's people that watch this religiously every Sunday when it comes out, so I don't want to miss one.
Okay.
So I try to stay 2 up, but Gwen had knee surgery, so we're just 1 behind now. But
why is it important to me is just the memories you're preserving in this.
Oh, yeah.
In this safe, if you will, and it's like a time capsule. When I go back and can watch what Dr. Hughes said about his life and how he came to Cleveland, or John Sheehan and how he went from the hard times to where he is now. I mean, it's fascinating. To me, it is.
And also, you can see how they talk about other things that aren't necessarily in their field.
Right.
And if you see how they talk about those random things, you can about guess how they would view something else. So it's really good.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. I do this all the time. Even before I started filming it, I just have people come in, we talk. But I have had some people that weren't necessarily from. I had an anthropologist on here, Richard Jones.
How'd that go?
Oh, it's unbelievable. He's over 40,000 views.
Oh, wow.
Just him. He said there were people here 130,000 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a topic that most people know nothing about.
Nothing about.
You know, and that's the point. Everybody you talk to is an expert to a certain level in some field, and we can all learn from.
Like Dr. Hughes, I didn't realize till he came on here he was such a bird expert.
I didn't know that either.
Oh, he's a bird expert, man.
Oh, I loved him.
And Scotty Mayfield, I didn't know he was such a craftsman.
Oh.
He was. I really liked him.
Yeah. And
Scotty Mayfield.
Ken Rayburn, have you had him on?
No, he won't come on. I tried.
He's just,
And I'm good friends with him.
Well, it's daunting to come on and you, because we talked about this, you're not scripting us, you're not giving us even an outline of what we're going to talk about. And this is the first time I've ever sat down with somebody this long and not have at least an idea of what we're going to be, I mean, something in this setting anyway, where we're going to have, we don't know where you're going on the next question type thing. So
We just talk.
we do.
Are you familiar with, I've usually what I'm talking about is just something I thought about this morning, but have you ever seen the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that pyramid?
Well, refresh my memory. Let me make
It's
sure we're
like
talking about the same one.
Maslow's hierarchy is like the number one thing that people are striving for is,
Self-actualization.
I believe it's sex.
You think?
It may be. I'm not sure. I think it's food, shelter, clothing.
But those are at the bottom of the chain.
Well, okay, yeah, the bottom, the things that you need first,
Yeah.
and how they just keep going till finally you get to the top where you want not recognition, but you want to give back. I wish I had that chart here. It's very interesting.
It is.
But
Where are you on that pyramid?
I don't know, and that's a question as to. We always get up and say, well, what am I supposed to do next, right? What's the next thing am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to give back? Do I need to keep working?
Right.
I've never known many people that quit working that didn't start to fall off.
I was reading a book on Coach K, the Duke coach that retired, and he would always ask his family members, they would have an annual conversation where they would go, well, how happy are you? 1 to 10, how happy are you? So try that with me. Well, how happy are you, D, 1 to 10?
Oh, I'm a good 8.
Then he would go, what would take it to an 8.5? What would take it to an 8.5, D?
Not having to work. I think.
I don't think so. I think you get bored to death.
But what's the point in...
Because you feel...
if you didn't have to go to the law tomorrow and work on these, I guess you've got 50 different things in the works.
So you got
and
60 cases at any given time, and what I would rather have is, like my dad, ultimately, he whittled those down to 10 good cases, and he didn't take everything that came, and I don't take everything, but I would rather focus my practice more on a smaller number of cases, because I really like to spend the time on them, and time is the one thing I don't have enough of. Time to be with my buddies, time to be with my wife, my family, time to be at the office and give each case, the hours and hours and hours it needs. So, you have to, it's just time. Time is what I would like to have more of.
Is there sometimes when you're in the office working, you think, boy, if anybody knew I was working here at this time, they'd think like, if I'm not mistaken, there may be some Sunday afternoons I see your car there.
Yeah, there are. Not as many as there used to be, but there are. And then at night, you can drive by and our lights are on and we don't have any curtains, so you can look right in there, see who's there and who's not.
Like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock?
That's right. Depends on, the thing about our practice is it's not a 9-to-5 job. And if you have a trial the next day, you're there until you get it done. And weekends, we've got a new attorney we've hired. He hasn't missed one weekend. Every Saturday he's been there since we hired him several months ago now. And back in the day, we used to take appointments on Saturdays. That was the day you'd take new cases in because you're in court the rest of the time. So it's very time consuming. And then, so whatever these real estate investments that I'm involved in, the only way I'm able to do that, Dee, is I find a good partner, put the deal together, handle the numbers initially, and then hand it off. And then the partner takes it and runs it. And it doesn't take me much time.
Try to forget about it after that?
Well, I trust the partner, and most of the 9 times out of 10, if you don't hit these grand slam home runs, but it's just a good solid single. Instead of playing golf, I'll invest in real estate like that, and you end up with what we talked about earlier, relationships, and so that's been another thing in my life that I've enjoyed are the relationships and these different partnerships.
Do you think that that guy that you said is working Saturdays past several months, can you envision that he will really do well because he's given that effort?
I do. I think work ethic makes, in this business, is, as I said before, the tip of the iceberg. It's 9/10 of the, of the secret to success. But that's in any job, is putting in the hours. You got to have aptitude, no doubt about that. You have to have the skill set, the inherent skill set. But a lot of those things are honed with the amount of time you put into it. So,
I think a person can work harder and overcome the person that has a given skill.
always. No, not always. Most of the time.
Unless you're playing the piano or something like that, something that's a real talent,
But how many hours did they practice?
Yeah, who knows? They might have, behind the closed doors, they might be doing it all the time.
Right, right.
Do you still work out a lot?
No, I wish I did. I work out, I try to do it 2 days a week, and I'm about 50% hitting that. But if those, I'm sure there are many things in your life you wish you could do over or would like to perfect or do better. Working out would be one of them. I don't think I've broke a sweat in 6 months. What's my reason? Why do I not? Because I have that little gym on the corner down there. My reason is I don't justify it because I could be working on a case, or I could be working on this, or I could be doing that. It's important. We need to take care of ourselves. I need to be doing that.
And if you think about how long it takes to work out, what, 30 minutes or say 40 minutes maybe?
Maybe.
And by the time, and even if you are a little sweaty, who cares? Surely we could carve out 40 minutes.
I know
but
it.
It's almost impossible.
It's just, I don't make it a priority. Do you? Are you?
Well, I ride my bicycle.
Well, that's good.
And, but it's the guy I go with, Alvin Calhoun, Alvin. So we got a real good routine. So it's very Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So we'll meet exactly at 5:15 or before. Well, we adjust it for the time.
5:15 in the morning or
Afternoon.
In the afternoon.
Yeah, and
Okay.
we're there we leave at that exact time. We know when we're going to be back, and that's good to have somebody that
Hold you accountable.
holds you accountable, and they're expecting you on the days you don't want to go, and you're expecting them on the days they. So that really helps.
Yeah.
But it helps to get up I think it's more important to get your heart rate up about 10 minutes, maybe twice a day, than it is working out with weights.
True. I agree with that. But how old are you now?
50, a little over 50.
Okay. So you're going to find as the next decade goes on that you start losing more and more muscle mass.
Uh-huh.
And then you'll need the weights
Uh-huh.
to keep you looking
I always
good.
wanted to take yoga. I always thought that would be the thing.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a celebrity, boy, and I forget who it was, but it was Madonna back in the day.
Yeah.
And boy, she was really in shape.
Well, let me
And she said she took yoga.
right. But I'll give you a little, if you want to see somebody in great shape, come look at my wife. She's younger than I am by a little bit, 6 years, but all she does is go to yoga twice a week.
Is that right? Where'd she go?
She goes downtown to Raj, somewhere on the courthouse
I think it
square.
helps your blood flow and everything.
Yeah.
Her posture's good too, isn't it?
I could be better, but hers is really good. But that's all she does is yoga. And why don't I do that? I got no excuse.
I may start taking yoga.
It would help you with your mind.
It would help me with my mind. Do you think that in time you'll eventually end up with one specific area of law?
No, that would get boring to me.
And in Cleveland, the smaller town, maybe it's not that possible?
Well, it is. I mean, we have one attorney who does nothing but domestic relations. We have one attorney who does nothing but criminal defense. We have one attorney who does nothing but estate work. So you can, but to me, I just like something new. And there is something that is nice about knowing everything there is to know about one type of law, So that's a little bit of a negative when you spread yourself out and do a lot of different things.
Or maybe it's a positive because you're not taking the normal path on it. Maybe you're coming around the backside and you're thinking something they hadn't thought of.
Yeah, no doubt about, you can bring your different ideas for example, into the domestic relations. I mean, some of the business things I do sure help me understanding when they tell me that their business is only worth this or that, I know better because I've been in that business. So you're right, it does help you to have a broad area of at least knowledge, a lot of different things.
Would you describe a really good Saturday evening, going out with the family to Chattanooga to eat, going to an event, or sitting home eating something good and watching something really good on TV?
That's funny. Gary Smith, you remember him? Gary Smith, he was Kent Smith's dad, Alan Smith's dad.
Oh yeah, I never knew him.
Yeah, he was a plant manager and president of American Uniform, as I recall. But when we were in high school, and he would tell us, he goes, "Have you ever been in bed, laying back, kicking?" Because we were always worried that we should be at this party, we should be doing this. I'm talking about when we were 18, 19, 20 years old. He goes, "Well, Robert, have you ever been in bed with you kick back, laying back, watching TV, and really wishing you were anywhere else?" I had to think about that. And I go, no, that's a pretty good feeling. But for me, I like being on the river and unwinding up there, watching the sunset at Watts Bar. That's where I find, my peace. I'm not big on going out and staying out late. I go to bed about 9:30, 10 o'clock most nights. 10:30, but yeah.
If you're on the river, you listening to music?
I am.
What kind?
I like the oldies. I don't know any of these. Like you watch these award shows, these folks are winning these awards. I don't know who they are, but I'm still the old school with the Bruce Springsteen, John
80s?
Cougar, 80s.
You ever listen to that 96.9? That's all they play. I had him on here, John Rodriguez.
Really?
That's all they play, and they have a 2-minute. They have a 2-minute guarantee. They have like commercials for 2 minutes, and it's back to. And like on Sunday mornings, they were replaying Casey Kasem. They do that every Sunday.
Yeah.
The old, I forget what song was it that was what week it was, but that's all they play. Michael Jackson and
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe that I like that because that was when I was a teenager, and then early 20s was in the 80s decade. So sometimes I think music, you like what was in your heart at that particular time of your life, or that sticks with you because of that time of your life, rather.
And some songs you don't like because they were in you were in a bad spot.
True. And some movies too.
Some movies for sure.
I find that all the time. First thing I do when I'm watching a movie, I'll click on the date, and I'll think before I do it, I'll think, well, that was about 5 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. No, turns out when you hit the date, it was a 15 or 20 year old ago movie, and just how fast time goes by. And
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's why I don't mind 20-year mortgages. They'll be over before you know it.
Yeah. And my dad always said, my mother too, that in his 30s, time went by at about the right pace. But then in the 40s, it went by faster. And he said in his 50s, Robert, it was extremely fast. And then in the 60s, it was like a blink of an eye. And now he's 87. I don't know what he hasn't told me what the last 10 years were like, but I find that to be true, don't you?
My 30s were just a blur. I don't even remember.
Oh, so your 30s went by fast.
Oh, my 30s went by just like, they were just literally a blur.
Huh.
40's a good age. 40 to 50's a good age. But 50s are the new 40.
True.
You remember watching Archie Bunker and Edith? You know how old he was in those episodes?
He looks like he's 70.
48.
Isn't that something? You're right. I didn't not.
I saw a picture of my grandmother when she was 60 or something. She looked 70 or 75. People look younger.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because of what we're eating. Or I think canned foods really hurt that era of people. I mean, I really do.
Do you really?
Because that's what they ate a lot of.
Yeah, that's true.
From the '60s to the '90s, that was it, canned foods.
Well, but you think about the farmers, and my grandmother grew up on a farm, and she looked old at age 40, but she was eating what they grew in the garden. So I don't know that it's just the food aspect of it.
Maybe that was the sun. But yeah, you're right. Maybe that wasn't it, because they did look older then.
Yeah. I don't know.
But do you think that in the future, I mean, like right now, you may have a client, you're texting, your email, you're sending pictures. Just a few years ago, we were getting it through fax. Prior to that, they were having to have a runner.
Yeah, it's a different world. I can remember the transcriptionists when we first started. We didn't have word processors, or they were just coming in, and so you would they would type up, and you would read it, and you'd mark it up. They'd have to start over, type it from scratch, and then start over, type it from scratch. Things was much quicker today. And then, now what I have is a program called SpeakWrite. So I used to have a dictaphone. I dictate on it, and the transcriptionist would type it up. Now I just talk into my phone, and it's typed up by a paralegal or somebody in Canada, for 2 cents a word. And then it comes back to us, and then my physical paralegal will clean it up. So we can do a whole lot more, a lot quicker now than we used to.
AI may be writing it before long.
Well, I hope not, but you're right. You're right.
Is that my hat?
Yeah, so by the way, the last time I was watching one of your shows, I saw you, and you still don't have a very good looking hat. Here's a better looking hat.
Well, I like this, my color too.
And then, you didn't have any really nice mugs, so I thought I'd bring you a couple of Logan Thompson coffee mugs.
Logan Thompson. I appreciate that.
Well,
these are nice cups too, aren't they?
Well, they'll keep your coffee warm.
I have the most respect for lawyers. I just think they have such a neat job. If I was a lawyer, I'd be a criminal defense lawyer.
Well, those are exciting. And I mean, to this day, I would say that the two most exciting cases I ever had was the first couple of years when I was out. Conrad and I defended a man charged with murder. He was as innocent as you are sitting right here, Dee. I mean, he was accused of killing his fiancée. And this man never had a speeding tick, didn't have an angry bone in his body, loved this girl. I mean, seriously. I mean, I knew in my bones he was innocent. And as the trial went on, all of the evidence fell our way. I mean, it was he had different blood type. He had an alibi. Again, no motive to do this. And the last, right before I gave my closing statement, I should say, he reached over, patted me on the leg, and said, "Take care of me, Robert." And I was young. I was 28, 29 years old, and the pressure on that was enormous. But anyway, it went our way. 11-1 to acquit, not guilty. There was one person that was hung up. So anyway, and I still get Christmas cards from he and his family now. And then the case I had last year was a product case for a paraplegic. So it's kind of a bookend to my career is what I'm running with. That was the criminal defense work back in the day, and now these high-level product cases or those type take a lot of energy and time, but they're exciting. And we got through a 2-week trial on his case last summer, and after multiple witnesses, expert witnesses, the case got settled the last day of the last witness. But it was really a remarkable experience for us, for me anyway. I had an attorney from Texas that did all the heavy lifting, who just goes around the country and tries these high-profile, complex product cases. So, you might wonder if we woulda, coulda, shoulda. Would I rather have just do those big cases, 2 or 3 a year, than the 50 or 60 that I do in Cleveland, Tennessee? Mm-hmm. And maybe, but that person doesn't have 50 or 60 relationships.
That's right.
And I would tell you that more often than not, my clients become my friends. Mm-hmm. It's not just a client thing. They come back and you represented my father, you represented my granddad. I mean, I've been doing this 36 years now, so it does become somewhat of a tradition, like our mugs say, or our logo, building a tradition of legal services.
Who came up with that?
Probably Jimmy, you know. I say Jimmy.
Well, I love Jimmy Logan.
Yeah, he's something else. He's passionate about the practice of law, and he loves people. And
he really does.
He does.
I mean, he does. It's people that don't know him don't realize how much he really does care. I'd say somebody, I mean, he really does care.
He does. He can be misunderstood every now and then, but he's got a pure heart. And you remember me telling you about a business or a profession versus a business? He's all about it being a profession, the practice of law. It's not a business to him.
I had a problem back in, I don't know what year it was, maybe '08. It was a real problem, a real one, not a make-believe. And I got it solved. 2 people in all of Cleveland, everybody knew, 2 people came up to me. One was my cousin, and the other was Jimmy Logan. Said, Dee, I just want you to know if there's anything I can do to help you. I won't forget that.
Yeah.
And he wasn't talking about money, or he meant it.
Yeah, he would rather, he likes to, I mean, that's really what motivates him, is the need to help others. I mean, that's what he loves, that's what recharges his battery. Is if he can take care of your problem and you are appreciative of it, he'd rather have your appreciation than anything else.
He really would.
Yeah, no, that's Jim Logan. He's a fine person.
If you had to sit and you still didn't quite answer my question. It's a Saturday night. You're home with what would you rather be doing?
No,
I know you say on the river.
No, but I love movies, you know, and I like a Saturday with my family around us, and we put on some movie. You know, that's what I like to do.
See, I do that too. I do it on. I do movies on Sunday nights.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be shocked the movies that I like, but I don't like a real dramatic movie, like a.
Not a shoot 'em up.
No,
Lot of blood.
no, because that's I mean, it's okay, but I like the old Disney, like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. You know, some of those, they were really well written.
You're going back in time now.
I mean, they were really good. But some of these new movies, there's just so, I know it's supposed to look more real, but those older movies looked more real than the new ones with all the new stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't seen Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in quite a while.
Oh, it's a good movie. It's a good movie.
And my wife's favorite is The Sound of Music, you know, and she would, and my kids, we watch that once a year, almost. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, Sound of Music. Let's see now, the star was
Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews, and she also played in something else.
Well, she was Mary Poppins, I think.
Yeah, she was, but she was, she played in a series too. I can't think of what it.
I didn't remember that. You may be thinking of the Partridge Family, but that wasn't her, because she looks a little bit like that.
No, it was, I can't think of who. I like to watch the older movies where the character was in something else. You know, Alan Jones.
Yeah.
We're good friends. Well, we'll send pictures. He likes these old movies too. So I'll see, like I saw The Professor on Gilligan's Island on Gunsmoke. And, you know, it's just so funny to see him in that spot. So I sent it to him, you know, and he'll send me Wally on Leave It to Beaver was on My Three Sons. And it's funny to see these people in those roles. I saw Archie Bunker on Gunsmoke. And Opie Taylor was on Gunsmoke.
If you're watching Gunsmoke, you're going back. I do like Andy Griffith.
I love Andy
I think
Griffith.
there's some pretty good messages out of Andy Griffith.
Yeah.
And but I saw it back on the discussion. I saw Alan did the discussion with you, Alan Jones, and I thought he did a great job. And I thought it was really informative, and I enjoyed watching his story. He told me years ago his method to buying properties was it was a multiple of 5. Anything you can buy, Robert, at 5 times the gross revenue, you need to buy it. We were on his boat one time, and you can't do that anymore. I mean, 7 times is now sort of my threshold before they'll even, you still can't even make that number work.
But you got to get on the train.
You do.
You got to get on.
Yeah.
You just got to get on board.
You do.
I mean,
So many people are risk adverse and do not want to take a chance at anything. And you're kind of risk adverse, Dee.
What does that mean? Don't want to risk?
I'm saying of all that you have built and acquired quite a bit, but you could have done 10 times that much if you wanted to.
Well, yeah, and when you see how much money I started with, I was taking risks. I mean, it was more risk than people that it was risky. But I always felt like risk was not to be feared, but just managed. So you could manage, I always use this analogy. You could, if you bought a phone booth and paid too much money for it, you could structure it where you could come out. I don't know what it would be, but the structure can be worth more than the price you pay.
Okay, you can pivot and navigate and, get into something that doesn't start out well and have a happy ending, so to speak.
Well, real estate will forgive you for giving too much.
Over time.
If you go, if you go back to some old tax appraisals, like 1950, and you find a house, and you look up what it was appraised at the assessor's office, which I know is not accurate, but it's within about 14%. Typically, it'll be within about 14% of what it'll bring, either way.
Okay.
So if you go back to 1950 and you take that, you see what it was appraised at for the tax assessors there, and you look at it today, and you multiply that figure times 2% every year, that'll be exactly what it is now.
Oh.
I mean, it won't miss it that much. If it does, it's because there's a little bubble or there's not a little bubble. So what I'm saying is, if you just get on this train, it will forgive you if you have staying power.
You feel the same way about the stock market?
No, I don't feel the same way about the stock market, because anybody that's in the stock market is, if you notice Elon Musk, other than Tesla, as soon as he can get them out of the publicly traded, he will, because there's so much scrutiny in what they can do and what rules they have to do and how they have to report. And somebody can say, hey, they're coming out with low earnings next month, and all of a sudden now the stock goes down. It had nothing to do with the value. But the thing about the stock market is you don't know what the stock market will change with just the news cycle.
Right.
Real estate will go up in time. It'll reverse a little bit, it'll adjust, but the longer you have it, the more you can afford this adjust. So the interest rate is only your rent. Mm-hmm. So you're just renting it for that rate, and you just get on board. The problem is, how much can you manage? Because when you get to a certain point, you can't really manage it. And I've seen, for years I said it, Cleveland Plywood was my uncle. I sat there from the time I was 13 to the time I was 25.
So when you
30.
say your uncle, who was your uncle?
Joe Umby. That's who built houses.
Okay.
I worked for him. And I watched all those builders. They'd come in the morning, get coffee every morning. Yeah. And I studied these people. I mean, I studied them. Where'd they live? What'd they drive? All this stuff. And the ones that acquired some property, not necessarily multiples, but some property, held on to them, maintained them, they ended up better today than the person that got a whole lot but he couldn't manage it, mm-hmm. or he didn't get enough, because the more you have, the more you can have one go bad.
That's true.
You know, economies of scale.
Right.
You know, you can have one. Used to, when I had 20 rentals, if two people weren't paying, I'd have a heart attack. And now I probably got 20 that hadn't paid.
Yeah.
I'm not even thinking about it.
Yeah.
So because it's not really affecting the overall. But the real estate business is and the ones that got into the residential investing tended to do better than the ones that got into the commercial investing. Because commercial real estate has sort of a life cycle.
Yeah, a lot more risk.
It'll be good location, then it'll be bad, then it'll be good, and then it'll be bad. And so you don't want to get off when it's going good, and you can't get off when it's going bad.
Right. So we'll circle back to your Cleveland Plywood. Did you work it? Because I worked at Cleveland Plywood. That was my first job.
No, I started going there with my uncle when I was 12 years old. What year did you work there?
So I worked there when I was 17, and that would have been 78, 77.
77, that was when the 265 program, they were building a bunch of houses on Tasso Lane, Lynn Davis.
What we would do is go in and go to the wood, go out and carry sheetrock, Frankie Wilcoxon and I.
Frankie, yeah.
And they paid us a nickel more, a nickel per sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And back then you didn't have the big boom that lifted it, so you would carry it up the stairs.
Upstairs. And back then, see, now they'll take it to the site or to the living room. Back then, y'all had to almost take it to the room.
And we did. They put 12 sheets here and 24 sheets here. But you talk about strong. That was the strongest.
And there was
I've
two in one. There was two. They're always taped two together.
That's right.
Especially 5/8.
That's right. And Frankie, he's stout. He's strong.
Oh yeah.
And
all those Wilcoxons are.
So that was the summer that Steve Robinson.
Yeah.
His father. Do you remember his first name? Mr. Robinson. I just called him Mr. Robinson. But anyway, we finished the summer. We hopped in the car. A friend of mine, Richard Gibson, and I, we went to Daytona Beach at 8:17 and got down and called home. And we made it, Mom and Dad. And Dad said, son, I got some bad news. Mr. Robinson passed away today. And so after I went in and shook his hand and said, thanks for the summer job kind of thing, he was only in his 40s when he
You
passed
might have
away.
been the last person that talked to him.
No, that was the last day anyway.
Why can't we think of his name?
I don't know. And he was a fine.
They say he was a great guy.
Yeah.
Me and Steve had the same birthday, November 10th.
Steve's a remarkable person too, isn't he? And so Steve had to step up and take over the operation of that business at a really young age. And anyway,
Because his dad was 42. He was how old?
He was
Good grief.
got to be in his 20s.
Well, he's a prince of a guy.
He is.
He's a prince of a guy.
Then from there, I went to work at Bowaters in the wood yard, and that was hard work. But my point is, working in those hard manual labor settings sure made it easier for me to go to school and turn a page in a book, And I really valued that time and experience. Made a lot of friends that to this day I still have relationships with, from Bowater Woodyard particularly.
The hardest thing you've ever done is the hardest thing you've ever done.
It seems like it gets harder every day.
I mean, because everything else seems
Yeah.
easier after you've done something hard.
Well, did you make your kids work?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I didn't give them nothing. They both paid for their cars. I mean,
Did you pay for your car?
Oh, yeah.
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 I had a 60-40 rule. Dad said, I'll pay for 60 or 40% of any car you want to buy. And so as I say, worked those jobs and ended up with about $1,600, and he kicked in his $1,400 or whatever it was, and I bought a little bitty Fiat X19 it was just a piece of junk. It stayed in the shop more than it did our driveway, but I took care of it. I mean, it makes you appreciate your vehicle if you have to pay for it.
Oh, if you've got a car that's down, you've got to work that out.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to work that
That's
out.
right.
And that's important to learn. I always think of that episode where Opie broke the window and the guy said, Andy, you should pay for the window. And he said, well, I can't. And he said, why not? And he said, well, you see, if if he knows I'm going to bail him out, then there'll be a day when I can't bail him out. So I've got to teach him on this window.
How about that? There were some good lessons in there.
Oh, good lessons.
Do you remember the one where Opie came home and had lost something, and he said that somebody up in the trees had taken it from him, and Andy, maybe even gave him a spanking for lying, and because he kept saying, "You got to tell me the truth," and he said, "Dad, it was a Mr. McDermott or something."
No, McBeevy.
McBeevy.
Mr. McBeevy.
And finally,
I know every episode.
when old Andy goes to the woods and see there really was a Mr. McBeevy, and had to go apologize to Opie. That tugs at your heart to this day, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. Those were great shows. I'll tell you another one was because My Three Sons. I didn't watch it then, and it didn't make the mainstream, but it was a good. Those shows were written so good.
That's so funny. You like to go back and watch that. That's interesting.
Well, I'll tell you what else I like is Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Petticoat Junction. See, they were all written by the same guy, Paul Henning.
Uh-huh. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, written by the same guy because the character that was common in all three of them was Sam Drucker because he had the grocery store in the center between Petticoat Junction, Beverly Hillbillies, and Green Acres.
Wow.
Because Jed was from way up above the mountains. It was really, it was well written.
Does he talk to everybody that comes on this show like this about these topics? I mean, there's no boundaries, is there?
Do you ever read?
I do. Yeah.
What would you read? Fiction or biographies?
A little bit of both. And really, where I am these days is book tapes. And so every night I go to bed and I listen to a book tape. I'll go to sleep. I'll wake up. Your mind starts racing on what you got to do the next day. And so I just put a book tape in my, ear pods and
go to sleep with it in your ear.
Yeah, and it gets. And I listen to so many over and over and over again. I just listened to Elon Musk book tape, good book tape. Anyway, a bunch of different book tapes.
What about the next night when you remember where you left off, or do you just start it over?
You just start it. You don't. Anybody tells you that is a way to remember or learn something. It's ridiculous. You may catch first 15 minutes of it, and then you're you're dreaming or you're in.
Would the earbuds come out at night?
No, they stay in. They'll die, and I'll have to put them back in the charger, and so that's the only downside.
So you keep an earbud charger by yours?
I do.
So what if you get a phone call?
No, I don't get calls at late,
Text?
Sometimes. And
Will it interrupt the...
A little bit. Not really. I really haven't had that problem. Maybe I'm silencing my phone. I can't.
What do you get up? What time do you get up?
6 o'clock, 6:30.
You set the alarm or just get up?
I just wake up. But again, I'm going to bed at 9:30 or 10. So I'm getting 8-9 hours of sleep. How about you? What time you go to bed?
I go to bed at 12.
And what time you get up?
It varies. I don't set any alarm. So I get up usually about 7. About 7. I'm out of the house before 7:45.
Yeah.
But I do a little workout routine in the morning. I got a 7-minute workout routine.
Well, you need to send that to me. I'd like to see that.
Oh, I do it 7 minutes. It's 6 to 8, depending on my energy. And I've just studied this stuff that, it's a combination of everything. It's about 7 minutes, and you don't even break a sweat, but it keeps you loose.
Right.
I can touch my toes.
Little stretching,
and I do push-ups and little barbells.
Yeah, that'd be great. I need to do that every day.
But boy, sometimes I don't. If I've really ridden the bike hard and my legs are sore and I've got to get somewhere or got something really on my mind.
Everybody I know that's done this bike riding like you're doing has had at least one major accident. Have you?
I have. Broke both wrists, both broke hands.
Yeah. And so that hasn't deterred you from bike riding? And stationary bike doesn't do it for you?
No. Got dog bit 3 weeks ago. Had to go to the doctor.
I've had a lot of dog bite cases. I mean, people mangled by these dogs.
Oh, it's horrible. I know why these insurance companies won't let you have dogs because this dog was out to kill me. And I was going up a hill and I couldn't get unclipped, and so
Right.
you just had to let him punch.
Yeah.
I'm glad he stopped.
Any stitches, anything like that?
No, I had to go to the doctor and get a shot, and they cleaned it and cut around it and stuff. So, but you know, I wasn't mad at the neighbors, you know, or the people, because you know what are you gonna do? It's you know.
Well, I don't know. I get frustrated with people that maintain some of these vicious dogs, and they've already bitten 5 other people, and then they mangle a little girl.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Then yeah.
I mean, I don't have much sympathy or tolerance for that.
Well, the bill was $79, and you always wonder after the insurance. You always wonder, you know. They always say, "We're supposed to tell you to get a tetanus shot," and I'm thinking, "Well, are you telling me to get a tetanus shot or not? Because I don't know." Not tetanus, rabies.
Rabies
Because
shot.
you worry about that. You think,
the
well,
rabies
what did
will-
the dog look like? I don't remember what it looked like.
They used to have to go give you a series of those rabies shots in your stomach. They're very painful.
Do you know the next day, I had the animal control call me, and I had the health department call me, and some other organization that I had never even heard of, and wanted to know where and what kind and all this other stuff. I said, man, I don't, you know, I never had that. I've been bit before on a bike, but they didn't do that. I don't know if it's something new they're doing or what.
And was it in the county or in the city?
County.
Yeah.
I went by and put a note in the mailbox. I said, hey, your dog bit me. I'm okay, but just wanted to
And
let you know.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you
'Cause
put them
they-
on notice.
Do you go out of town? You go on vacation with your family though, right?
Well, every year, 2 or 3 times.
Boy, isn't that hard to get away?
It is, and when you take 6 people, it's pretty daggone expensive depending on where you go too.
Oh, if it's
We just got back from Nantucket, and it was beautiful up there. We had a good time. But yeah, we take a couple of vacations a year. And do you like to take vacations? I like to go for about 4 days, and then I'm ready to be back. We went to Brazil for 10 days.
God, that would just drive me crazy.
It was
It's just
hard.
too far. One of the best trips I ever went on, believe it or not. I mean, I go to New York sometime, but it's you know, like leave on a, you know, Friday night and come back Monday night. And that's about all you need in New York, really.
Yeah.
But me and my cousin went to, we left Atlanta one night at 12 o'clock for Las Vegas, and we arrived in Las Vegas 10 o'clock their time. I forget what it was. Maybe we left at 8 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, we were there by 9:30. By 10 o'clock, we were in a rental car, and we drove 3 hours to Rachel, Nevada. We only saw 5 cars in 3 hours. Took a left and went to Area 51
Oh,
to the gate.
Sure.
Not no gate, just a sign.
did the hair on the back of your neck stand up?
I'm telling you, we drove that far, and when we got to that sign, there was a gray truck there, just far enough away you could tell somebody was in it, and it said, "Do not pass. Deadly force will be used." And we turned around and left. We took a picture every hour and got back to the motel, gambled the whole night, got up in the morning. We was back by Sunday night. Had a great time.
That's a long weekend for me.
We had a great time.
Brazil took us 27 hours to get to our destination.
Golly. Just a lot of getting off and trains and stuff.
Well, no, you just had a 9-hour flight, and then you had another 2-hour delay or change of flights rather, and then to Recife, which is on the northeast coast of Brazil, and then we landed there, and then we had another 3-hour drive to this area we were going to. So it just a long combination of a long day, and we started in Chattanooga. That's just not my cup of tea, going away that long. Now, I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't do it again, I don't think.
That's a long time. I think that probably 3 nights is the ideal.
perfect for me.
3 nights, and that way you're there 2 full days, and you know, try to have it planned out a little bit. But I like going to see different things that I've been, I went to Pawn Stars in Las Vegas to that, where they had the Pawn Stars.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Got to be careful the way you pronounce that.
Yeah, that's right. Have you've seen that show on TV?
Yeah, but I haven't
It was
seen it.
so hot out there. They had sprayers that misted you when you were standing in line.
Huh.
It was so hot.
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting concept for a show.
Yeah.
I don't like these reality shows, though. Do you?
No, but they used to be better than they are now. I think they're more scripted. I like Duck Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe they got more to where they were scripted, but I like the unscripted.
Well, what else, Dee?
What
else
kind of
you wanna
movie?
talk about?
What? Give me one movie to watch tonight.
Well, you can go watch, Miss Sloane with Jessica Chastain. She's a redheaded actress. You know who I'm talking about? Miss Sloane, fascinating movie. Molly's Game, since you are a gambler, go check Molly's Game out. Same actress, it's really good. If you want to go back in time, the best sports movie ever, I think, is Hoosiers.
I've seen Hoosiers.
It's, I don't think you can beat that one. And I've watched it 5 times, and every time it's worth watching again. So I don't know. We watch a lot of the Netflix series, Lessons in Chemistry. You might enjoy that. Been watching that with my wife.
But a lot of people are hooked on that Yellowstone.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yep. But it's more of to me, it's more just a drama like, what was the show?
Sopranos.
No, that was a little bit, the one back in the day with J.R. Ewing.
Oh, yeah, Dallas. Yeah,
Dallas.
that was good.
But it's just kind of a soap opera to me, a little bit.
Well, the main thing is just sitting and relaxing and getting your mind off something without using drugs.
That's right.
Robert, I appreciate it, buddy.
Dee, I've enjoyed it.
I really do appreciate you coming.